Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee from Skill Builder, and if you've been following our Dulux paint saga, you'll be happy to know that Dulux has responded in a very positive way. They've invited us up to their Dulux Academy, and they're going to explain to us and to you the difference between the trade paint and the consumer paint and why that trade paint costs so much more. So we're going in. Mask up, James. Let's see if we pass the COVID test.
Normal temperature.
That's the first normal thing you've ever had, isn't it?
Normal temperature.
Hey.
Please proceed.
We're going to give you a tour. We're going to show you the academy. We're also going to take you to the R&D place, but we're also going to let you try some products yourselves with the academy team, so you can really get hands-on and really understand what are those differences and why our paint's worth paying more for.
I don't know how you drink through the mask. That's all I don't know, you know. Hello, team.
So this is one of the sessions we do for the business. So a good example would be the Dulux trade side, is that we have to make sure that the product is modifiable based on the situations that a decorator or contractor could be in. So you could be thinking of a decorator is going to be working pretty much all year round if they could, because they're trying to make money on a 100% basis. They need to be able to apply it in warm temperatures and cold. They need to apply it to new surfaces and redecoration surfaces. Dry lining, it could be plasterboard, it could be straight onto skin plaster, or it could be redecoration as well. So what we do with the trade products is we make sure that they can be modified to suit those environments and those surfaces. Modification basically means thinning it down.
Yeah, water.
Yeah, just with water. What it will do is it means that we can ease the application in those certain environments. So we can actually thin trade paints down by around 10% regardless, to make it easier to apply, easier to cut in, smoother application and faster. But up to 20% if we're looking at new plasters and bare surfaces. And then after which you can then reduce the amount of dilution down if you're trying to get a better coverage, for instance, if you're doing a redeck. But it still makes it easier if you thin it down a little bit. So even 5% can help.
Yeah.
So it means it goes further.
What you're saying then, sorry, I'm not going to say what you're saying.
That's right.
This one's got the dog on the front.
Yep.
So that's the consumer stuff.
Yes.
It's always got the dog on if it's consumer, right?
Yep.
So if you're a tradesman, forget the dog.
Retail customers may buy you the paint that you're going to use.
Yeah.
And that's when a lot of the decorators that certainly we come in contact with get a little bit nervous, because there is the odd occasion, and in more cases than not, they may require a third coat because it doesn't cover quite as well as the trade.
So is that more watered down?
No.
Can we thin that down?
No. If you're looking at a really hot environment, so it does say on the back that if you've got a really warm environment, so if you think domestic situation, heating's up full, tradesman might be working in a new build without any windows or doors in, so you wouldn't need to. But if it's really warm, you might want to thin it down a little bit. The downside is, as soon as you start thinning the retail paints down, they become quite loose. They don't hold their structure on the surface and it reduces the coverage. So the more you thin it, or even the more you stir it, it will actually reduce the coverage down. Fundamentally, you can see straight away that the retail paint is actually quite stodgy and thick in the can. Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah.
So it's a bit jellified.
Like a thixotropic.
Thixotropic, yeah.
Thixotropic.
I won't want to put words in your mouth.
Thixotropic.
Yeah, thixotropic, yeah. So
sorry.
it's a bit like jelly. Yeah?
Yeah.
So what you'll find is if I stirred that, and I'll just stir one corner, just so we can get it on camera, and what it will do is it will break it down and actually make it really loose and thin, just in that one little place. Yeah. So if we stirred that considerably, you lose the structure, which means you can't apply it thick enough to the surface to get you the best coverage that it can be. So that's why in most cases on retail paints we recommend just taking the lid off and using it as you see it, because it keeps that structure. If we were to stir that now, the whole thing, and make it really thin, you'll be able to use it, yes. You might find one rollerful will travel too far to get you the opacity you want. So you may require a third coat to get you the full coverage or the satisfaction of the colour that you're after.
You've thickened that paint up by putting something in it. Well, do you know what you put in it or not?
Yeah, so we put a thickener in. There's there are many different types.
So that thickener serves no purpose other than to stop it dripping off the brush?
Yeah, so if you think non-drip gloss, retail non-drip gloss, you won't find a non-drip gloss in the trade.
No.
So if you look for any trade brand with a non-drip gloss, you won't find it. Yeah. Because we do it in the retail because we don't want them to get runs, we don't want them to get drips coming off the brush. Okay. And it gives the consumer more confidence in the application. Yeah. So we put this, it's a false body, effectively.
Yeah.
So what it means is you've got that security blanket of not having to retrain yourself as a retailer every time you pick up the tin with a 2-3 year gap in between each time you apply. So with the trade one though, completely different. We don't need this because the rest of the ingredients is actually thickened up by the actual ingredients that are going to perform to do what you want them to do. In other words, cover and film build across the surface. So when we're looking at creating, let's say, magnolia or white, the most expensive part of most of the ingredients that go in is TiO2. So it's the white pigment that goes in, which is kind of really powdery, really fine. And we put that in to give you the strength of colour you want for opacity, because the particles are so fine and so small, they knit together really easily. Whereas if you're looking at, let's say, I'm going to say an own brand, regardless of whose it is, you might swap some of that over for an extender, which is a bit coarser. Yeah. So you could be looking at chalk or talc, those kind of things, to actually swap over the expensive material for the cheaper one, which won't give you as much coverage, and it won't be as white as you can see there. So it means that you don't necessarily get what you think you're paying for. You end up with having to again apply more paint. So a good analogy would be if you went into a supermarket and bought yourself some orange juice. You can buy a carton of orange juice for 60p, or you can buy a carton of orange juice for £3.50.
Yep.
Now those orange juice still says orange juice on them. Just made from different type of oranges.
So while we're talking money then, how much of that goes into, you've just shown me a test tube.
Yep.
How much of that would be in each of those?
That I can't tell you, unfortunately.
You don't know? You've never seen it made?
Yeah, I've seen it made, but the formulations are obviously trade secret.
They're secret?
So, yeah, well, I'm not sure whether we're allowed to say any of those.
So when Alistair said, come along here, we've got no secrets, we want you to be transparent and honest and open with everybody. First question I'm asking you is how much of that expensive ingredient is
what
going
I
into
would
the
say is
trade?
there's a lot more that goes into this than there is in this one.
Okay. Now,
as a percentage, I can't tell you.
But
with regards to the
reason we came up here is because this issue was between somebody going into B&Q and buying a tub of paint for 30 quid, and then James going into the Dulux decorating centres and finding what he thought was a similar product at 110 quid. So what he's saying is, I don't mind, it's a trade product, it's going to be a bit more money, but why so much? Is this stuff gold that's in there? Is it? Does that travel around in a security van?
No,
This is what
the thing is, if you're thinking of from a trade perspective, if you're going to be applying 2 coats to get your coverage, which you'll probably see in a minute, you'll get pretty much that, or you're going to apply 3 coats, possibly 4 of a retail brand, you've got to think of the labour, the extra labour to apply the 3rd or 4th coat. You've got the scaffolding costs to take into account. You travel backwards and forwards to also take into account. So you will get much better performance out of these with regards to the application as well as what it's going to look like in the coverage. So you're fairly confident in the fact that you won't need to go back for extra.
Okay.
So there's that balance in that side.
So when he bought the tin, on both the trade and the retail, it said 15-year guarantee.
Yep.
Which
I think, are you dealing with that over in R&D?
Is a little bit of an interesting one, yeah?
Yeah. So that's...
So you're going to explain that to us later?
Yeah.
Can you hang on to that question for me?
Yeah.
So you don't forget?
We know that's
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Matt, I'm
That's
jumping
right.
the gun
So
with you.
the other thing that will also come into play with regards to the formulation side of it would actually be the binders that go in, how good they are to stay where you put them, right through to the sheen level. So if we were looking at water-based binders, for instance, there it is, would be considerably different to a water-based binder, which is yellow. So as we know, some solvent-based paints go yellow over time. Water-based can't. But these water-based material binders will actually go into these products to give it more strength, to actually give it more washability, wipeability. So if you're thinking of a vinyl mat being wipeable, you then would be looking into diamond technology with regards to scrubbability and even Scuff Shield, which is our new product out.
What's that one called?
Scuff Shield.
Okay.
So it's a new product out there which launched about a month or so ago. So it means that we've actually got even more scrub resistance and impact resistance across the surface. So it gives us a great opportunity to reduce the amount of times that it's going to be washed and wiped or redecorated. So if we can extend a maintenance cycle on a commercial property for a period of time, then it doesn't have to be redecorated quite so often.
So that
the
puts painters out of work.
What you'll find is a school might put scuff shield down the corridors and think it's such a great
Yes,
success, then they move that into the classrooms and then into everywhere else. Whereas in the past, they would have just kept, every year, just keep painting over and over and over and over again and not get the benefit of using a higher grade product. So what we're going to do, we're going to, myself and Tony, so I'm going to decant these ones, and unless you want to do it, obviously, and Tony's going to do those. The rollers need to be worked in, so pick a wool, any wool, doesn't really matter. Give it a apply, and then what we're going to do is apply to the left-hand side with trade and the right-hand side with retail, or vice versa, your call. Just so we can have a look and see how they apply. I say you can have a go at stirring them and applying them if you want, or you can use them as guided. So in other words, the retail can just be used, and the trade will actually give it a good stir to apply.
We would wash the roller first.
Yep, dampen the roller first.
Then we would prime it up, roll it.
Yep, prime it out and roll it out onto a separate surface, not the one you're going to finish it on.
Okay.
And that means that the roller is then continually loaded all the way around the roller. So you'll see some people, when they first use a roller for the first time, they're dipping it in, and then they start to roll it and it makes a ticking sound.
Yeah.
And that's normally because there's too much paint on one side, not enough on the other.
Yeah.
So it takes a metre or so of working it in to get it level all the way around, and then you can apply it nice and evenly.
Okay.
So the trick with these is when you do get it wet on the roller itself, is only dip the paint in, the roller in as deep as the pile is.
Yeah.
If you get the outsides covered in paint, then you're dipping it too
You're
far.
out of it.
So just coaxing it off the surface before you put it on. Now, based on the coverage rate of both of these two, it's approximately 2 load-ins per side. One roller full, and go all the way top and bottom. There won't be enough on there. So the idea is one roller full and a bit will actually do one side. With regards to these, is give you different colours to apply onto based on an extra deep base, which is the yellow one at the bottom, a light base, which is that light blue, and a medium base, which is the colour at the top. So it's a bit more of a real life scenario rather than a lab-based test, which is just going white and black, which won't really give you huge amounts of, in a real life it won't give you huge amounts, but it works really well for R&D.
I'm going to see the difference.
Because the retail one you don't need to stir, so we won't stir it. Yeah.
Does it say that on the tin? Do not stir.
Yeah. I mean, you can if you find
that's fine.
if you find that there is a bit of float. So float basically is if you think all the raw ingredients, the powders, the extenders, the binders, and all the dry ingredients will settle to the bottom. So that stirring just means it draws it all up all the way through. Whereas the trade products, because we've got more of that dry ingredients inside the can, they can settle more. With the retail one, they tend to be suspended more because of that thickener that goes in.
So we must give that a
stir without doubt. Now that goes with any tinted product. So if you get it tinted in store, it's more important, because the tinter, if you've ever opened a can up before and there's a tint float around the lid, that's because when it's shaken, because it's quite thick and stodgy inside, it bounces around a little bit. Okay. And then you don't get the full benefit.
If this was in store off the shelf as a colour,
the retail one you probably wouldn't need to stir it.
The pigment wouldn't settle.
No. But it might on the ready mixed trade ones slightly, but more so on the tinted if it's tinted in store. Also means the stirring of it makes it easier to pour as well. Because they do loosen down a little bit when they're stirred, so it does make it a bit easier to pour out. What you'll find is every good tradesman has a damp cloth in their pocket. Just to make sure.
I do, just so I can wipe my tears away.
Push down so that it gives you that depth. Keep it at that height, so you pull it onto this end. Then you can push it back again. If it won't spin, which it will eventually, then keep turning it over and push everything back in. So with a tray, unlike a paint scuttle, which is if you were going to do large jobs, you'd have a big scuttle instead.
What I always use,
But with a tray, it's always best to use that as the deep end, and this is the shallow end, and push everything back into the deep end all the time. And just keep rotating that round. So you're always trying to get it even rather than just keeping it one side only. So that just helps balance out. Also catches extra paint that's on these edges as well. So that one's loaded. That's it. And then when you're trying to get paint out of the tray, is you pull it towards you, and then everything else is that pushing motion all the way through.
Would you say that was loaded yet or not?
Well, see, have a roll on the wall first. What you are looking at doing is getting an even distribution all the way across. You'll actually find that there's still not paint right down deep inside. So that's where that first roller fall is the one that helps push the paint into the pile. And then the next time you'll probably find this roller now is going to be twice as heavy. Now roll it out again, same place. There you go. So does that feel smoother going on?
Yeah. Roll it back, and then I'm going to go push, push, push. Tell me what this has got in it that would be hazardous to my eyesight.
Any of the chemicals that go into paint, we would always recommend wearing safety glasses.
It's got biocides in it at all?
There will be some in-can fungicides in there, yes. That's it. Nice and even distribution all the way across. And the good thing is, because you've got those variety of different colours there, what we would do is what's classed as back rolling, which is basically a light application of the roller across the surface without any extra paint on it. And what it does, it flattens the texture of the surface down, but at the same time reduces the amount of orange peel that you might get on the surface. And then the back rolling is all the way across it, top to bottom.
If I started to run back across that, if I missed bits and I wasn't methodical in that, and I started to run back across it when it was still wet, would it start picking off or not?
It can do, yeah. The first part of the paint that goes on starts to grab onto the original. And then once that starts to grab, you start putting the new paint over the top, it softens the one that's nearly picking up, nearly attached but not quite. So when you roll it, it can lift back off again.
So it's got more affinity with the paint than it has with the wall at that
it's
point.
not so much the wall's issue, it's the fact that it's partly dry. If you rolled back over that now, thinking it's not even enough,
it can pick it off.
Possibly lift.
Can I try it? Because I don't want to mess the roller up, but at the same time.
That's fine. I say that's what we like doing in here. So what happens is, with retailers, they won't be as methodical as a tradesman. So a trade decorator will be very methodical across the surface, treating it very similar to a chess game. So you're going left, right, up and down. You're trying to make it really methodical as you do.
Gotcha. Grid, like a grid thing.
Grid system. Whereas a retailer might be a little bit more haphazard.
My first impression on that, it's not fantastic coverage, but it's not bad. I mean, given the fact that we were going over these colours, it's only one coat. So this is the trade version here. This is, we've given this a stir.
That's it, and then you can reload.
James has already finished his.
Yeah, that's the thing with James. He doesn't do day rate.
Try and make sure you apply it in the same way as you did the one on the left, on the right. And like I say, that's where we get because of the tradesmen being very methodical, they get right into it. I'm just gauging how far you went on the last one, so I'll give you a bit of a give you a bit of a nudge.
I appreciate the fact that you want it to be fair. You want it to be a level playing field.
Well, to be fair, we could actually make one roller full travel probably 10 square metres if we wanted to.
Well,
but it won't give you any realism. So what the roller falls that you're doing now basically is roughly what it is on the square meterage on the tins.
So whenever we do a comparison video on anything, we always get people watching it who say, "Oh, that's unfair. You were pushing that drill more than you were pushing the other one." And quite honestly, it's usually in their imagination. Normally they're looking for some foul play. And we got absolutely nothing to gain from favouring one power tool over another one.
I think most decorators have got an element of OCD in them. So you do need to be fairly even as you're doing it.
So let's have a look at that trade then. You can see the difference. How does it look to you, Dylan? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can say there's better...
There's the line, there's the colour.
There's better opacity on the left.
Okay, let's go and see what James is doing, shall we?
We're cutting and roll. I was cutting in and roll.
Oh, you are such a tart.
Just applying the retail. Definitely a difference, which is clear in application.
You know that phrase, James, when they say you can paint?
Yeah.
Do you have trouble? No, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, do you want to see a good one?
Oh, let's go and have a
Yeah.
You can see your roller going there. You didn't work it enough. It's quite straight.
You're right.
I worked mine a bit, and you didn't cut in. See, I'm cutting about mine.
I didn't know cutting in was a requirement. They didn't even give me a brush. How's that? Oh yeah, all right, okay. Hands up.
You've run out of excuses.
I have. Finally, I've run out of excuses. No, I didn't spot that actually. I'll tell you what though, the light is everything, isn't it? You've got to look at it in a good light.
Cool.
You can't paint in the dark.
Yep.
So this has got the thickener in it. thixotropic to stop it from running.
Yeah, so it's got this kind of non-drip quality about it.
I know.
So when you can see that the paint holds itself on the end of the stick, it doesn't drip off.
Yeah.
Whereas you can see that one now is more of a liquid consistency. It's a lot thicker, but it's like a very thick cream.
This is as loose as a goose.
That's more of the liquid paint in itself. Whereas, this is a great comparison actually.
Yeah, watch this. You think I've got a job here? Look
at that. So for a professional decorator, he likes a paint being quite free and quite liquid because he knows how to use the product. He uses it every day. Whereas a retailer, they don't understand the paint as a liquid form, so if they just dip their brush in it, it's going to drip everywhere. So it has this body to stop it from dripping, and you can see it's just holding on the end of the stick and it refuses to drip off.
Even if I was a professional, there are times when I might use that paint, because if I was painting a ceiling in an occupied room and I didn't want to, the things where you don't want a few splashes on the wall.
But then that's the tools that you're using, not the product.
Is it?
It's to do so Matt mentioned the long pile of a lamb's wool as opposed to a medium pile. If you've got a pile that's too long for that product on that surface, that's when you get roller spatter. So on a smooth ceiling with the right roller, you'll get some, but you won't get a lot.
I've got to get this right now because James is critical of my painting.
How's his plumbing?
He's good at it. Annoyingly, James is good at almost everything. There's one thing he's not good at.
Singing?
No, he's good at that. He's a guitarist singer. He's in a band. He's been in... One time he was gigging in 2 different bands in the same week. He's good at cooking. I've got to say that I went to one of your competitors, to their training school, academy, whatever you want to call it. And as soon as I started to roll, he went, you're doing that wrong. And he said, don't ever go back over what you've... And he kind of did it, it's like a Y shape,
Okay. Yeah.
And then down and then, so that you're not running that same bit over and over the stuff you've already done. So that's why I was a bit nervous, because what I used to do is just go up and down.
But then that's the way you'll see a professional decorator do it as a rule. They will go up and down, whereas a retailer doesn't use an extension pole and they'll do the W's and V's. Whereas a tradesman will have a roller pole and go floor to ceiling in one stroke.
Well, as I say, that's the way I always used to do it. But that guy said to me, stop, you're wrong, I'll show you how to do rolling properly. And he did that Y.
Yeah, one roller pole approximately will cover 3 high by 3 wide to get the right optimum coverage.
Yeah.
So to do that by hand, it's easier to go in those kind of shapes to make it nice and easy.
Okay, got it.
If you've got a roller pole on the back and you're putting some force on it, you'll still do it, but you'll be doing it up and down like that.
Okay.
Then reload, up and down again, reload, up and down again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing to remember is the trade paints can be sprayed through airless, whereas retail paints can't be sprayed because the thixotropic material that's within it will just break up way too fast and atomise too much and then cause too much overspray. So from a trade perspective, a tradesman could use brush roller or spray, whereas a retailer would just be using a brush and roller.
Got it. So when they sell that Erlex sprayer that they sell to DIYs...
And it will spray, I'm going to say well enough for a retailer, but from a quality perspective, you'll find using one of those, it may atomise way too much.
So those are the panels with a 45-degree angle to get the most out of the weather conditions, and slightly accelerated than the real condition, but also still very valid point. So we have further testing like QUVs to just have the accelerated weathering, but we also put all of our paints in here as well to be able to see what will happen to them with the rain, with UV lights, etc. And this is to measure the durability, how robust film you're going to get at the end of your period, and in terms of the chalking, in terms of dirt pickup and how clean it is, and in terms of the mold growth, algae growth, those type of things. But on top of that, you can see lots of colors in here. As you know, like the tinters is impacting the overall durability, and you might have some fading, and we need to be careful about all of those things, and we do our testing in here as well as QUV.
In UV, some colours fade a lot more than others, don't they? Like
That's
reds,
right.
for example,
Yes.
would bleach out straight away.
Yeah, there are some problematic colorants that you need to formulate around them. Otherwise, based on the chemistry of those tinters, they're going to fade more. So that's the technology that we have and we test in here, and as well as the other automated tests.
Does anybody publish those results about which colours fade most in the sun or not?
No, so
They
this
don't?
is not specifically for the pigment itself. It includes the pigment as well, but we are not using the powder pigments anymore. So we use the tinters, which is the liquid version of
Which
them.
is the ink, basically.
Yes, which is kind of the ink.
Yeah.
And every, like there are suppliers on that, and some of the paint companies does them themselves too. And this will depend on that formulation as well. So there is no straight away reveal. So what you can see, the things like blues, for example, might be a little bit problematic, but this will definitely depend on your tinter composition as well.
Let's talk about Weather Shield.
Yeah.
Let's go back to James's tubs here, and he buys it ready mixed off the shelf.
Yeah.
Is that a different pigment to the?
It is the different pigment. So it's
So
not
is that a powder pigment or
It's
not?
not the pigment. It is the tinter, let's say. Both of them have the liquid form.
Yeah.
But the ones that we are using in plant versus the one that we are using for our mixing machines are slightly different. So when you buy because this is kind of like the productivity and effectiveness perspective as well, because the amount that you're using in the plant versus the structure of your tinter in the tint machine is completely different. It's not because of the different qualities, but you have the different tinters for ready mix versus the mix machine tinters. So this is one of the aspects as well. You get different actually. And on top of that, I just wanted to add, for the ready mix colors, we have the opportunity to optimize the recipe for that specific color. But for tint recipes, you don't have this, because you're going to take the same base and you will make lots of different colors. And some is going to, based on the tinter amount you're adding, some is going to be great for opacity, but some, if you optimize this as a lower opacity, some is going to be rubbish. Of course, we don't take this, so we don't have any option to optimize this per color. So you need to put a really high cost, robust recipe so that you can deliver every other color in a good quality.
That just slightly confused me, because are you saying that the ready mixed that you do in the factory is the more consistent? That's more the same?
It's not the consistency, but take into account that for the ready mix color, you know how much pigment you're going to add on top of it, and pigment have the opacity, have the coverage perspective as well.
Yeah.
So you don't need the 100% coverage of your base paint while you're adding 2-3% of it. So you can go with the 97, for example. When you add your pigments on it, it's going to be 100%. But for the base paint, you can't have this, because if you formulate this as 97, and if there is a color that you add only 1%, 98 is not going to be enough. So you need to reformulate this as 100%. Whatever you put on it, then it's going to be still good. So that's the difference. That's the money that we invest on that as well.
So that would explain some of the reason in the
Yes.
price.
One of the key reasons for such a significant price difference, well actually there's two together, the bases we make in smaller volume, so therefore the cost of those bases is higher. So the higher the volume, generally the lower the cost. So if we're ready mixing paint colour in a factory, it's tens and tens of thousands of litres, whereas if we're mixing 5 litres in a paint store, obviously it's less cost effective. So the quality of that base needs to be far greater than the ready mixed product in the factory. I think the second piece is just on the colouring. We invest a lot more in ensuring that the colour retention in trade is greater than in retail. So the property that was on the first video, which was a relatively dark colour, because it was trade paint, the durability and the weather testing that we've got here, we look to retain that colour for longer. So one of the questions that's emerged from our video, one of the comments underneath that keeps coming up time and time again, 15-year protection, all-weather protection? 15-year all-weather protection? Is that guarantee or what?
That's the certified with the British Board of Agreement actually. So both of them last 15 years. But if you take into account this test method of the BBA, so it means that 15 years you're going to get durable paint on your wall. But there is always a range on those testing. So it doesn't mean that the 15-year certification on both means that exactly the same performance. So the way that we formulate them for both retail and trade is using the highest technology of binder to last 15 years. But on trade part, on top of that, we have better coverage and better alkaline resistance, which you can't see straight away on pack claims. And those are making, it's not just the 15 years durability as a differentiation of those two, both last 15 years, but trade comes with an extra things. Also, trade comes with the color fading as well, which is part of this 15-year all-weather protection, but is slightly better than the retail in that perspective.
Slightly better.
Depending on the tinters, and also there is no way to just accredit this of the fading bit, but you can see from the alkaline resistance, I'm saying slightly for the colors, because alkaline resistance is better on trade, which means the colors is going to be better because of the alkaline resistance as well.
Yeah. I know the British board, I read the certificate,
Yes.
I read the whole thing, so it says up to 15 years.
Up to 15 years.
15
Yes.
years, so that could be 1 year, couldn't it?
No, it can't be. Up to 15 years, you will still see your paint film on the wall. So that's the standard, up to 15 years. And of course, this will depend on your climate. So if you're in somewhere else in the country, that's going to change straight away. And also, this doesn't take into account things like dirt pickup, for example. You might still have your paint 15 years over there, but it might be dirty or with the algae, etc. So that's the reason we always put the trade first in terms of the innovation. So 15 years looks like the same at the moment, but we are currently working on a new product development project for the trade part, and trade is going to be upgraded, and all of those on pack claims are going to be changed as well very soon.
So that is going to be on steroids, basically, that stuff, yeah? That's going to be way better.
Yes.
I can't see you putting the price down. If you're going to make it that much better, that suggests to me that it's going to be even more expensive, or better value, as you would call it. So that means there's going to be even more difference between that one and that one when they go in the price. Now, there's a shock factor involved there, isn't there?
Yeah, but I can't answer the question of the cost, of course.
No.
So all new technology comes with a cost, but how the selling price is going to be affected with that will depending on where we sell, etc. But from our perspective, we need to keep our performance going all the time. We need to follow up the technology. Now we have a new technology to just make our walls better after even 15 years. So that is going to come, and during that time, our algae and fungi protection is going to get better. And this is going to differentiate more and more between the retail and trade performance.
Okay, so if the way that James has used this, I'm sorry to leave James as a silent partner, but we don't have a microphone on James, so you have to shout very loud. So James ran out of this, B&Q didn't have any more, so he went and bought that, and he completed the house. So some of the house has been done in this, some of the house has been done in that. So in, say, 10 years' time, not for me, but for James, he might pop round there and have a look and see if there's any discernible difference in...
He can have a look at, so I don't expect any difference on that manner, because the side of the houses is exposed to different weather conditioning as well.
Yeah.
Even with the same paint, you might see some difference, or even with the different paint, you may not see it.
Yeah.
But because we can't control those type of environments, our role is to put the robust products in those cans so that you can have still the quality paint after 10 years and after 15 years.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that, I'm not going to be the judge here. We're going to put this information before our viewers, and they will no doubt comment, because they're not frightened to comment, you know that.
Of course, yeah, we are not frightened to answer. So as much as I can help from the technical perspective, I'm happy to answer the questions.
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Alistair, you are the Managing Director of Dulux UK.
Yep.
So really the buck stops with you, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
So you've got what are ostensibly the same product in two different cans. You know, they've both got a 15-year guarantee. They're both, you know, Dulux and so on. Is this too confusing for your customers, having two products which are very similar? One's got a dog on it, the other hasn't, but that one is over twice the price of that one if we go to B&Q.
Yeah.
Does that do you any favours?
So I think what you've done, I'll start with a thank you first, because you've highlighted that it isn't clear.
That'll be
to
James.
James.
Yeah.
Thank you, James. You've clearly highlighted the need for us to communicate the difference between trade and retail better. There is a significant difference in price, and really we make no apologies about that, because we invest a huge amount more into our trade product. It doesn't mean to say the Dulux retail product is a poor product. Absolutely it's not. But for tradespeople who use our products every single day, that's where we continually invest in the innovation, in the colour. You know, you've seen today in the labs, protecting that trade brand as the leader in the market is really important to us. So it is confusing, and there are certain stores where both products are available, so it's even more confusing. So what we've taken away from this, and I'm delighted to share it with you, is we're now going to go out and actively communicate to the whole market. I think painters and decorators are generally more aware, but when we get into the building area, you know, for the first time, people may not know the difference between them, and then when they see the price, they balk at the price without clearly understanding why that is.
So look, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but you know, as a plumber, I mean, they're you know, much maligned plumbers, so we're not trusted. What I tried to do with my customers is always tell them up front what they were in for, so that way there weren't any surprises for them. Now, the trouble with James, obviously he went in there not expecting it to be a huge difference in price. His decorators were hanging around. He thought, I've got to have it. If it had been another £10, £15, he probably would have just taken it. But when they told him it was £110 as opposed to 33 quid, that's the point at which he nearly killed over. That, to me, as a plumber, you know, somebody who's been out for many years, and let's face it, plumbers have a reputation for ripping people off, you know. I had to guard against that, and the way I guarded against it was to be absolutely transparent with my pricing up front for people. I wouldn't apologise for it, because I think as soon as you say sorry it's so much to people, then they start, that's the price, but at least they knew, you know.
So I think, look, I hold my hands up on this one. You know, the service wasn't great from start to finish, not just the price itself, but I think the service wasn't great, so apologies for that. I think, you know, one of the key learnings is we don't want that sting. We want people to know up front. So one of the actions that we're putting in place is to ensure that whenever anybody has a tin of paint mixed, they know how much it's going to cost before the product's mixed. So it's a simple fix. It may not be the price that people want to hear, but then that will be supported by the fact that they can clearly explain why it is more expensive. You know, the fact that a tinted tin of trade weather shield versus a ready mixed tin of retail weather shield is significantly more expensive for all the reasons that we've explained to you today. And ultimately it's a much better product. And if you're paying for scaffolding and you're paying for labour, if we can get a product that, you know, we put our name against it, covering in 2 coats, and it does the job, then that's fantastic. But, you know, I apologise to you, James, and also I think anybody else out there, having read all the comments on the site, you know, I have read every single comment that's on there. There is a lack of clarity, so it's our job to fix that, and that starts with you know, being transparent with the price up front.
Fair enough. Okay, well, that's very good of you. Thank you very much for inviting us here. I think we've...
It's a pleasure.
I think that's clear enough. I mean, we're not the judge and jury. We just put the problem before people, and they've made their comments, and they will no doubt, as you say, make more comments. So hopefully that's good feedback for you.
Absolutely. And also we welcome, you know, any comments. If there is a lack of clarity, come and speak to us directly as well. You know, we're happy to clear it up. As I said to you at the start of the day, we've nothing to hide. You know, I really want to ensure that people believe the product is worth paying more for. So thanks for your time today, and thanks, James, for flagging the problem to us. And
I just want to clarify this for our viewers. You haven't paid us to come up here. You haven't paid our expenses.
Nothing.
So basically, this isn't any kind of sponsored thing at all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Well, that was interesting or not, depending on your view. And I think we learnt some stuff. We learnt that it is definitely a different product, and we didn't have it reverse engineered by a paint chemist simply because it was going to cost thousands of pounds. And as a couple of our helpful viewers pointed out, all that information is already available, published, free for everyone to see under the KOSH regulations. So there you are, saved us a bit of money there. But what we didn't find out from them, although they said there'd be no secrets, is they were keeping very stum about what those extra ingredients that they put into the trade version are actually worth, what the cost is. And I suppose you can't blame them. I mean, they want to keep their margins, don't they? I was looking at their shareholders report, and it actually said that they've maintained good profits despite a difficult COVID headwind. And they've done that by cost cutting and careful management of their margins. So there you are, take a leaf out of Dulux book, and if you're suffering a difficult headwind, maybe you should think about managing your margins, shopping around for the best value and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's see what James has to say.
Okay, James, so we've been to Dulux and you've had a moment to reflect on what you saw there. What's your overall feeling now?
There is a difference in the two paints. There's no denying. We did some tests whilst we were at Dulux. The way they're made up, the retail was tailored for non-professionals. It's got extra thickness in it, so it's a bit more stodgy, so it doesn't just fall off your brush or your roller. But they've explained to us that the quality of the colour is the same in both paints. They just said there's more of the expensive stuff in the trade, but how much more expensive is that stuff to buy? That's still my bit of a question. In chatting with them, I spoke to Alistair. He asked me at the end of the day if I was happy with it, and I said yeah, but I still don't understand why there's such a big difference in price.
The result is, though, from bringing this to their attention, they're going to change their practices, and if you're going to get some paint mixed up now at the Dulux Decorating Centre, they will tell you the price before you have it mixed up, so that way there's no surprises and you can walk away if you're not happy or try and negotiate a discount. And we do believe you can negotiate a discount.
Yeah, well, I did in the first place. It wasn't so easy. I felt awkward asking for a discount because I'm not a trade, don't hold an account there. It felt a bit awkward at the time, but no, he did say that they're going to be, across all of their decorator centres, they're going to be making their prices more transparent to people, actually putting prices up so you can see what it is, then you can make a decision.
I think that's fair enough, isn't it? I mean,
definitely.
like anyone, you can charge what you want for a product.
Of course, yeah.
There's no law against that. And they do have a bit of a confusing message in as much as they're putting Dulux on all the different tins. But
yeah, and the same claims on both tins for how long they last and that kind of thing. But purely by chance, I was walking around in B&Q, love it in there, and I was walking down the paint aisle. I seem to spend a lot of time in paint aisles nowadays, and I walked past this. Another Dulux Weather Shield. This one is ultimate protection, and it claims different things. It actually covers less meterage, although there's the same volume in there, so less meterage than both of those. But this one, it seals and primes and strengthens. It's flexible. It's a 2-in-1 paint and primer, and it's got superior colour retention.
Has it?
Yeah.
Superior to what, we ask?
Compared to Dulux Weather Shield all-weather protection masonry paint, which will be that one. I think it's got 15 years on it. Mould and algae protected paint film, UV resistance. When we were at AkzoNobel, they told us that the pigments in these two paints, the trade and the retail, were as good as each other. They're identical, in fact, that one is not going to fade before another does. So if you've got two walls painted, or even one wall painted on the same face of a house, which is getting the same weather treatment, that they'll hold up the colour the same. But now we've got this one in the mix, the ultimate protection, which has got superior lasting colour.
So superior, basically, not only superior to the B&Q consumer one, but superior to the trade one.
Yeah, because they've told us at AkzoNobel that these are the same.
Yeah, or they give you the same performance. Yeah. Basically, once they're on the wall, you won't see, if you put them side by side, you wouldn't see a noticeable fade in the cheaper one.
That's exactly what they told us.
Yeah.
But yeah, now this one is claiming something different.
So how much was that extra?
So this one was £35.
Yeah.
This one, £44.
All right, a little bit more.
Yeah, but still not as £108. Yeah. So we're still less than half the price of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently it's better.
So on the face of it, if you get slightly less coverage with that one with the gold,
yeah,
but it's flexible and it's alkali resistant, and that would make it good for new render and all that kind of thing,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
apparently,
Make
yeah.
it
So it
excellent.
seals and primes.
And if you've got the odd crack, it's got something in it to cover the cracks a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
says superior hiding power.
Oh, that's good. Obliteration, that would suggest, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, it all looks pretty confusing. So okay, that look, we've given them the right to reply. Fair enough. I think we've treated everybody fairly. You're not out to damage Dulux in any way. You're just saying it's a bit of a mishmash.
It just started off as a question. I had a question, they didn't answer it.
Yeah, and now they will, and now they love you so much. Any time you've got the hotline to the managing director.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
He actually phoned you up on Sunday morning. That's great, isn't it? If you're doing another job, which one would you go for?
If I'm painting a house again, I might go for Johnston's, because a lot of the commenters are saying that's the paint to go for.
A bit cheaper.
Yeah, and quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll give it a go. The next job, we'll see what Johnson's can do for you.
Yeah. Johnston's beware.
Watch this space, viewers.